Here we go. Go ahead.
Hi, everyone. It is Jen and her pal Gustavo, and we are doing our bi-weekly through Instagram with Cream City Mortgage. We figured that this week our topic would be real estate myths because how else would you celebrate April Fool's Day with all the lies and the funny things that we hear about real estate? And then Gustavo and I are here to come correct with the things that have been floating around recently and for years. These are conversations that Gus and I have had several times with our clients. So,
Well, Jen, let's be very transparent here. Although today is April Fool's, let's be honest. These are not foolish things, and definitely these are myths. So we're going to make sure that we're telling the truth and we're stating exactly what it is. So, although today is April Fool's, yeah, let's not be fooled by the fact that we're going to talk about the truths about these myths, right?
yeah, 100%, 100%. So, Gus, tell me, what is the number one myth that you hear the most? It's probably the same one I hear the most.
So, and I think this is actually the myth that caused us to talk about this topic is the
Yep.
fact that it was literally came up in conversation multiple times in the exact same day. And that is, I need to put 20% down is the number one myth that I've come across recently, at least. And it has off and on as well. But let's be honest, it's not true. You do not have to be um, putting 20% down whatsoever to be able to buy a home. If anything, putting less money down actually sometimes it's a benefit, you know. And one of the
Mhm.
reasons, as crazy as it sounds, is you actually get a better interest rate with 5% down than you do with 20% down, right? But also it gives you more buying power. Hey, you can, if you, as long as you're okay with the payment, we're able to go ahead and make either other investments with our money. You know, I've had people, hey, I want to remodel my home, but if you put 20% down, you're not going to be able to do that, right? Versus, hey, I'm going to put 5% down, and then let's remodel the home, and then once we're done doing that, if and when it makes sense, let's refinance. But now we put all this money into it, so now our home is that much more worth in value, which at the end of the day could also result in 20% equity at the end of the time, right? So
Right.
those are just two good examples to of why 20% down is the myth and is not mandatory.
Well, and also to
Uh,
add to that too, when I meet with buyers and they mention 20% down, I will say, well, usually the only way or the time I would recommend 20% down is one, if you already have it, I don't want you to miss out on like 1 to 3 years of possibly buying a house at a different price point because you're saving up 20%. But another thing that I tell my buyers, so it's either you already have it so that you don't have to pay that PMI, or like we have discussed this before, 20% down, we do have a better chance of getting an appraisal waiver, which when we're competing is gold. Another thing that I tell my buyers to consider is that because of the competition, we don't need 20% doesn't hold a lot of weight. It does, but it doesn't. I would rather have you do 20% and then or excuse me, I'd rather you do 5%. And then if you have extra money, we are going to put it towards an appraisal gap. We are going to put it towards, let's provide the seller with a credit. We're going to put it towards a higher earnest money amount. There's other things we could use that extra money for to sweeten up the offer. And then to your point, 100% lenders love to see money in savings accounts. And so when you purchase that home, which that's another myth we're going to talk about later on, you do need that money to have for stuff for your home, for repairs, for value adds, for things like that. So
exactly.
as a lender, what is the percentage that people should save up for?
Save up for in total.
For if they say, hey, I want to start looking for a home, I know I have to put down a down payment. What is the percentage I should aim for? Like, what's the average amount or the average percentage?
So if you're a first-time buyer, we can do as little as 3% down. If
Okay.
you're not a first-time buyer, then you 5% down is the magic number, right? So I'd say I think the average home now, I think it's in the 320 range, if I'm not mistaken,
Hmm.
in the metro area, not just Milwaukee.
Yeah.
So let's just make easy math, right? So 300,000, let's just bring it down to 300. So 3% down is 9,000, 5% down is 15,000. So to encompass both of those, I'd say if you have 22 to 25 in the bank, you're not spending it all, by the way, especially for 5% down, you're not spending it all. But I think
No.
that's a good place to start, and that's a good place to be, to not only have your down payment, cover your closing costs, and just have a little bit for a rainy day fund kind of a thing, right?
Right.
And it's not about having all the money, or like you said, saving it all up. It's about just getting in the game. Let's just get in and let's just buy the home. And then, as we know, appreciation, at least in Wisconsin, is a real thing. So let's use that equity down the road, or let's figure something out down the road, right?
Absolutely.
All right.
Shocking, we're in agreement with that.
So number
All
two,
right.
number two, what's the second myth?
Oh, wait, hang on. We do have a question.
Oh,
After
oh,
applying a smaller percentage, would it make more sense to apply for HELOC to take out equity for home improvement? Now,
I
I
can
might have
answer.
done that myself, actually.
So yes, you are able to do that, but to a certain degree, right? Let's be honest, especially if you find like a home, like a diamond in the rough, you're not going to be able to pull that equity or touch that equity right away, right? You need time, right? So if you buy a house today, you no matter what you paid for it, you can't pull the equity out within the next 3 to 6 months. That's not going to be possible. But can you pull it out if it's been a year or a year and a half, and let's say your home has gone up in value? Absolutely, yes, we can do a home equity loan, and that's where we can guide you through that process, or at least give you some information if you are at that point. But very good question. Very good question. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Noe. And I will say, just to share my experience with that, I did put 5% down, and 2.5 years later, I did pull out a HELOC to do repairs to my house. And because of the value add that I added because of those repairs, I was able to drop the PMI because I had 20% of equity then already in my house. So it kind of
There
goes
you go.
along to what you were just talking about. All
Absolutely. Great,
right.
great. Number
So
two,
myth
man.
number two is
Yeah.
another one for Gustavo. It's a little bit for both of us too, but it is more with rates. Myth number two is that people are waiting for the rates to drop. What are your thoughts on that?
So, in theory, it sounds like it's the smartest thing to do because nobody wants to pay unnecessary fees or higher interest or more interest, right, over the course of time. But at the same time, let's think about the bigger picture. What's going to happen, Jen? How's your schedule going to change when the rates drop all of a sudden? What is that going to mean for you and people? Let's just say for you, for example. What is that going to mean for you?
So no one will know me because I will be running around with my buyers showing a lot of houses on phone calls, strategizing about their offer while we're competing against 20 other offers. And then I'm going to be on the phone with you at 10 o'clock at night saying, Gustavo, we got to figure this out. So
Right.
essentially, when rates drop, more buyers enter the market. And I think that's what people like, they don't realize that, you can purchase a home at this rate. I'm not going to say that saying because I absolutely hate that saying, but you can purchase it at this rate and a later time you can refinance and get a different rate for yourself, a better rate for yourself. Well, when you enter the market and the rates are on the higher end, there's a lot of buyers that take themselves out of the running simply because they just can't really afford a monthly payment. So when we have buyers that say, oh, the rates are a little bit too high because March hasn't been the best for rates. We started off
Right.
so hot, and then global situations caused the rates to go a little crazy. They're starting to come back down again. Buyers took themselves out of the running, but I'm still working with other buyers that are hitting the ground looking for homes. And if they have to do 6 months or so at a higher rate, then so be it, but they still got into a house. I still
Right.
have buyers that have been sitting on the sidelines since 2020. No matter what I say, those rates are never coming back.
Right. I agree. I mean, and the takeaway here is waiting for the rates to drop, although it may seem like you're going to save money, but you're actually going to actually spend more money because of the competition, like as you said, right? So more competition, now you're going to pay more for that same house,
Mhm.
and also on top of that, potentially higher rate at the same time, right? So the best thing to do is let's just buy the house, get into the home, and then, like you said, we'll figure out the rest later. But at least this way, you can try not to worry so much about waiting too long to save money. And
Mm-mm.
oh, there we go. Okay, so with that being said, number
Scared
three myth.
me.
I was like, wait, what was that? Okay, number three myth here. I'll start it off here. Spring, Jen. Spring is the best time to buy. Did you know that?
No way. Are you serious? Had no idea. That one
What are you
drives me
saying to that?
absolutely crazy. I will
Tell me
tell
more.
you. So when I meet with a buyer, I go through the entire cycle of the year, right? And what I will tell my buyers, everyone thinks spring is the best time to buy. What you do get out of spring is you do get a lot of options. I'm going to say that. A lot of sellers wait for the spring market to list their home. Both you and I have talked about this. After Easter, we are going to see this huge uptick in, buyers and sellers, listings, inventory, everything. But then you have all this new inventory, but then you also have all these new buyers that you're competing against. And the first half of the year, and it starts with spring, you start competing against multiple offers, a lot more offers. You start losing your contingencies. You start losing your rights as a buyer, and then the price of your offer keeps going up, 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 up. From a seller's perspective, you are competing with other listings in your neighborhood. So if you're able to, I tell some of my buyers, I'm like, I will get you better deals in the second half of the year, especially come from like October moving forward, because a lot of people who rent can't move in the winter months. And I do understand that you may see the house of your dreams in spring. We can always go for it, but I will be able to get you a better deal for less money in the other months, other part of the year.
I agree. So this is the example that I use all the time. Um, when do you want to buy a boat? Do you want to buy it in the summer or do you want to buy it in the winter?
Winter time, right? I'm assuming because that's where all the deals are. I mean, it's the boat show in Milwaukee.
Well, that's a good one. Hey, hashtag Bocha Milwaukee. No, seriously though. So, and because essentially the dealership or whomever selling it doesn't want to pay those holding costs, right? To maintain it, weatherize it over the winter. So like, hey,
Yeah.
take it off my hands, and then you as a buyer hopefully going to get a discount or get a deal on it where, hey, I'll take on those costs. So when is the best time to buy it? In the off season, right? Time is money, meaning whoever if you, let's say if it's nice outside and all of a sudden you go to the dealership, you want to buy a sports car, you don't want to buy it when it's the nicest day outside because they know you want to drive it right away. So they're not going to, you're not going to be able to finagle with them, right? Deal. So therefore, the best time is always going to be now, number one. And also, hey, if you're open to it, let's keep an eye on the market for the whole year because springtime is, although there is more properties, as you said, it's not always the most economical sometimes for all buyers, right?
And it always does come down to what you, the buyer, what you can afford at that moment. But you do bring up a very good point. When the weather changes and the homes are vacant, you have to deal with winterization. Like the heat is on and no one's living in there, right? And then when we are dealing with homes that have been flipped, the flippers, it's their business. They want that business off their books at end of year. So
Right.
then, 2 years ago, I was able to negotiate 25 grand off of a flip in Brookfield. You were actually the lender on that deal, and it's because it was year end and we closed like December 30th. And we only got
Right.
that opportunity because it was end of year.
Right. Sure, for sure. All right, I'm going to carry on to the next one here. Overpriced to leave room.
Yeah, so that is more my category because it deals with listing your home. Unfortunately, we do have a lot of sellers who they don't take the advice of the listing agent. They will take the advice of Zillow or I just went on a listing appointment and the sellers I was dealing with, one of her friends told her what they thought the price of the home was, which was probably about 200,000 more than what I showed the comps to be.
Oh,
Yes,
wow.
so a lot of people they get emotionally attached to the home or they see this home and it's like they fall in love with it because it's better than the home that they're currently in. There's so many reasons, so much advice that sellers get from like grandparents or their best friend's sisters, brother, whatever.
I got one for you. What about this one? Hey, my neighbor house sold for this much more. my house is better than my neighbor's house, right? And
That is
how many
every
times have you heard
listing
that?
appointment. Every listing appointment. And then I'll point out, well, it has 1,000 more square footage. It has a finished basement. It has an extra bathroom. The lot size is a little bit bigger. They have updates. Like, so the myth is let's press high. And if we need to come down in price, we can. I don't like that at all because one, you think you're going to come down, but you're not going to. And two, days on the market is something that we all want to stay away from. Days on the market it works for seller, does not work, or it works for buyers, does not work for seller. When a buyer or their agent sees days on market, I'm going in under list price. And in some situations, I'm starting at 20 grand under list price to see how far I can take it. Or I'm pulling comps and then I'll say this is so overpriced. So we're going to go to where it should be. And then I'm going to take some more money off of it because it's been sitting on the market. So that is not a good strategy, is a big myth. And yes, sellers try to run in that direction. You got to remember with Zillow, that's like an assessment. It is the value for the entire area. So those estimates are a value for the entire area. It's not that specific house. An agent will come in and give you the value for your specific house.
So what you're telling me, if I'm hearing you right, is don't try to price the house at the price that you're trying to get. Try potentially start a little bit low to gain the momentum, would you say?
Well, there's three pricing strategies. One is you can price low, which some agents do, but unfortunately what ends up happening is a frenzy and you have 20 offers on your home. And I would say 75% of them are junk because you underpriced it. And you're guaranteeing to your seller, I will sell. It's those people that are like, if we do not sell in 2 days, I will buy the house from you. So their strategy is let's go so underprice it, or let's go way low in price that it will guarantee offers. The second way of doing it is when you actually are using the market value and pulling comps and you're pricing it right where it should be, but you may give yourself, I don't know, a very small amount of wiggle room to have the price go over because you got to remember you have to worry about an appraisal. And then the third way of pricing is like, it's kind of like they are assuming it's going to go this high. So let's just price it that high. It's like an assumption. The majority of homes during the hot months are going, 40 to 60 grand over price or over list price. So you're pricing the home and then you're going to add 20 grand on it because you're assuming that's going to go at least to that point. But then you're taking out so many buyers and it's not guaranteed. You never know.
Right. I always
So
tell
for
my
me,
buyers,
I price right where it should be because that's the correct way to price and you're drawing in the correct buyers that you want. And then if multiple offers happen, then we still have a little bit of room to go over list price and have it appraise out.
and on that note, I tell my buyers at the same time, I always say, hey, one of the things to note as a buyer is number one, and for that reason, because we don't know which of the three strategies the listing agent that we're looking at is doing, I always
Unless you know
tell,
the listing agent and you know that they've been known for doing it.
well, but that comes with experience, right? Let's be honest, that comes with experience. But as a buyer, I wouldn't know that. You would know that
No.
as an agent, but I would know that as a buyer, right? So what I tell
Yeah.
my clients, our buyers, and what I tell them is, hey, number one, don't pay any attention to the list price. That means
Nope.
nothing to us. That means absolutely nothing to us. So that's when I say, call your realtor, call Jen, and then figure out what is the true price, and then negotiate from that point on. Because we don't know which of the three strategies and a typical agent is using, so we have to just kind of do our own comparables, do our own assessment, and then from there, go proceed. Would you say?
Yeah. So I'm just going to tie this into the next myth, which is you don't need an agent,
Oh,
right?
great segue.
Right? Because what I would do as your agent is what Gus exactly said. I don't care if we're competing or not. I am pulling comps because I want to make sure that one, the price makes sense. Two, that my guidance, I'm not going to tell you, hey, you need to price it at this point to win. I also need to make sure it makes sense for that neighborhood and that you're not the most expensive home on the block and that it is going to appraise out. Like the price that we're going to compete at needs to make sense, right? And then it's also, like I said, it's, like there's some agents out there where they'll say, oh, we're competing. It makes no sense to pull comps because you're going to have to go over list price anyways. Give your buyer the option of doing it or not. I have said to my clients several times, look, you guys, there's 5 offers on the table. Unfortunately, it means you have to go over list price. I pull comps. It's already priced too high. My thought process on this is I don't feel comfortable going up to this dollar amount. We can do whatever you want, but I don't think that it's going to win at this dollar amount. It's priced too high, and this is why. And then I'm putting it in your hands, and you tell me what you want to do. Some agents would just be like, no, you got to do it because we're competing and let's move forward and whatever. And if you're doing it online with the iBuyer programs and whatever, Chat GPT, like the one person in Florida, they're not giving you this advice. You have to remember, when you type things into an AI like Chat GPT, we both, Gustavo, and I know this for a fact, we have it trained to our voice, to what we want to hear, to what we need to use it for. So if you, buyer, are asking questions, it's going to give you answers that are catered to a buyer side. If you, seller, are asking questions, it's going to give you answers catered to a seller side. You're never going to get a true answer. An agent working with an agent is going to give you that true answer. And
Right.
then the thing that we always laugh about with real estate agents, what are you going to do if the final walkthrough and something's broken in the house? How is ChatGPT or how is AI going to help you fix what's ever broken in the house?
Right,
You know,
exactly. We have a question, Jen. If a friend is selling their house, let's say to buy a condo, do you have to list the house as her realtor if someone else is willing to buy it? Is that
I'm
like more
guessing
like
this
a,
more
like an
like
off
an
market?
off
Like an
market.
off market?
Yeah. So I have done off-market deals in the past. I've actually done one for the person that's asking this question, one of their coworkers. And what happens is, we don't come across a lot of off-market opportunities. Maybe that should be another myth, because a lot of people think agents come across a lot of off-market opportunities. And that is not true, because as a seller, you do want to go live with their home, because their home sees the most amount of eyes when you go live. And so for the seller, you're going to get the highest equity going live. If you are doing off market, what happens is I, the agent, I will work with both the buyer and the seller. I will draw up the paperwork behind the scenes to make it legal, a legally binding document where both parties are agreeing to the terms and the price. And then we just work with my title company and we get it to close. And say Gustavo is the one who's financing the buyer side. We work with Gus and we get it to close. The only time that we would have to advertise that I'm the agent is if we decided to make that go public with that sale. Because we're not advertising it and it's going to be behind the scenes and no one knows about it, I'm not legally obligated to share this with the public. I don't have to put it on our MLS system. I can keep it quiet. A lot of times we do, though, after we close on a deal, we will make it public because other agents want to use it as a comparable going forward. But I do always have to disclose to both parties I'm the agent working on it. I do have to have my name on the paperwork. If I'm working with the buyer, I do have to have them sign a buyer agency agreement, because that is how a buyer agent gets paid. And then even if I was working with a family member, I have to disclose that the agent is related to the seller. But other than that, that's the only time I have to disclose it.
I mean, I agree. I think off markets have their pros and cons, right? But we're going to move on to the next myth here so that we're not holding up too much time here. Jen, what are you saying? What are your thoughts on the highest offer is always going to be the winning offer?
So during my buyer consult, what I will do is I will explain to them how the seller mind works to the best of our knowledge, right? We only know off of experiences. I will say the two things that sellers look at an offer: price and contingencies. However, terms are very important, should not be forgotten. So if a buyer is asking for 60 days post-occupancy, and we can give that to them, they may accept our offer over that. If we are offering them like free rent back and some are not, they may accept our offer over that. I did have a client once who accepted my offer because they looked up my buyers on Facebook and they thought they were a really cute couple. And so they accepted their offer because they were worried. A lot of sellers who've been in neighborhoods for decades, they're worried about who they're going to bring into their neighborhood. and they want to watch out for their neighbors and make sure that they provide them with good new neighbors. So it's little things like that, and you don't want to forget about it. I know a lot of people will bring up the love letter situation. I've never won a deal over a love letter. I have had sellers say no love letters. So they don't carry a lot of weight, and they sometimes border in discrimination because you don't want someone to select your love letter because of something they've read or something they looked you up and they liked what they saw or something like that. Like you have to watch out for that.
So you're saying let's keep the coffer nice and clean, and let's put our best foot forward, kind of a thing, is what you're saying.
Yeah. And then
Okay.
off of that last question I have a friend selling her home wondering if she'd be willing to go fair value versus a bidding war. So upload professional fixes, social media. So if I were to help someone who is doing an off-market deal, I would provide them with comparables so we can come up with a price that makes sense, and that would be like a fair market price. Like that's that strategy. When you're off market, it's very rare that you go against a bidding war. So to your point, yes, you're basically stating, am I going to go at fair value and have it just be fair value? But then that offer is going to have all the contingencies, have all the buyer rights in it, which is not a negative from the buyer's perspective, but it is a negative from the seller's perspective. They don't want all that. If you go live with the home and it's a bidding war, chances are you're going to have the offer price is going to be over list price, over fair market value, and some of the contingencies are going to be dropped, and there's going to be more terms in that offer that be favorable to the seller. And then for yours, with the upload professional pictures to social media, the problem is that when we do off market, we don't hire a photographer, so there are really no professional pictures. If that person, the seller, wants to do a for sale by owner, they have to take their own pictures, they have to put it on the market social media themselves, they have to schedule the showings themselves, they have to do the paperwork themselves or hire an attorney, they have to do the open houses, they have to manage, all of that themselves. If you pull me in to sell the house off market, I will not be doing professional pictures, and I am now very limited as to how I can advertise an off market because I believe there are new rules that just went into play where I can't put anything on social media anymore, and I have to watch what I put in text messaging and emails, and it's more of I got to call people and be like, hey, are you interested in this home? So it really it's not a good option for many people.
Great information, Jen. Okay,
Dialogue with our viewers today.
No, you're good. Okay, so I think we have two more myths here. Here, number 7 here is you got to skip inspection to win. What is your thoughts on skipping inspection to win an offer?
Okay, so this is a hard one.
I agree.
What bothers me about this is so many agents will put on social media like they're at a random inspection. We don't know if it's their own inspection. They could be filling in for somebody else, right? So that's number one. You don't know whose inspection it is. And then they'll say, I'm the agent that will get you an accepted offer without skipping that inspection. Really? How? Explain that to me. Because when you're up against 20 offers, chances are the one that doesn't have the inspection will win. And so that's why this myth is kind of a touchy one. I don't necessarily want my buyers to skip an inspection. And if we are in the second half of the year, not the spring market, the second half of the year, I can say, hey, we're only up against 3 offers. Here are workarounds we can do that includes the inspection, so you're still protected. One could be we're worried about foundation only. One could be we're willing to absorb up to $5,000 to $7,000 worth of defects before asking for help. One could be this is informational purposes only. We're not going to ask the seller to address any issues. So that's where skip an inspection to win. That's a myth for the second half of the year because we do have little workarounds that can get you to win the offer. Unfortunately, though, when we are at the spring market or the second quarter, it is so competitive that a lot of times to win when you are competing, inspection would have to be waived. I want my buyers to feel comfortable about it. I never pressure them into doing it. I lay out all the facts for them, and I tell them based off of my experience, this is what tends to happen. But at the end of the day, it's your home and you need to be comfortable with what's going on. Now, I do know that there are some agents out there that will use a strategy where they will only send properties that have been on the market for a week, at least a week, to their buyers. They don't send new listings. It's a great strategy, and you don't have to waive inspection because chances are you're not competing. But there's not a lot of houses that are available in the spring market a week later.
Right, right. All right, and the last one that we have here, for the sake of time here,
Yeah.
because it's already been half an hour. So it's going to be you need perfect credit to buy a house, right? And that's where I'm going to step in here and say, hey, absolutely not. You don't have perfect credit. Now, yes, let's be honest, is great credit going to help tremendously? Absolutely, right? The better the credit, the better the chances. But we have other programs that are able to help us help our buyers get into a home, even if they don't have the best of perfect credits, right? Or the best of credit, should I say. So now, with that being said, let's say you don't have the best of credit, but you are not in a rush and you're willing to, let's say when it's spring and you want to wait till the fall, hey, I can help you get your credit scores up. I can work with you on that so that when we are to the point where we're ready, hey, we're going to be able to hit the ground running, right? So I feel as though not the best of credits is important, but if we have time and we want to start the pre-approval process soon, so that we can get you ready, so that when it's time, we can obviously go after the homes and start doing those showings, right?
I do think too, like I've worked with buyers before that they want to have better credit, so I immediately hand them over to, I shouldn't say hand them over, I immediately pull you in so that we can come up with a plan to have them get a better credit score. I think what buyers don't realize is how quickly they can accomplish that. It's a matter of paying off like a $300 credit card, and then your debt to income is different, and so I think that some get very overwhelming thinking that it's going to be this big process. In reality, it's really not. And,
Right.
There's certain credit scores that are needed for certain loans, and I don't think many people understand that. To your point, you don't have to have perfect credit. You can still get them approved. Their interest rate might be a little bit higher. They may need to have a bigger down payment. They may qualify for government loan versus, conventional loan. There are options. They just have to, reach out to one of us to understand their options.
Right. Absolutely. Well, Jen, we have debunked the myths in real estate, or at least we've tried to do so in a timely fashion. We thank everybody and appreciate everybody's time in joining us here. I know it's a holiday week, if you will, and so we understand that might not everybody be here. But with that being said, do you have any closing remarks, Jen?
One, I do think that this is going to be something that we're going to talk about again. So a few months later, we can kind of revisit this because these myths always come back around. Two, for those who weren't able to join us or came in late or had to leave early, I do upload this on my YouTube channel, so you can watch the video in its entirety or share it with your friends and family, whoever you may think would love to know this information. And then lastly, we normally do bi-weekly. Your girl is not going to be available on the next 2 Wednesdays. So our next bi-weekly will be April 29th. I know it's a big time gap between the two, but that will be the next one. We'll do advertisement for that. And then, of course, if you guys have any topics you want us to cover, send it our way. So
Awesome.
That's it for
Thanks,
me.
Jen.
Thank you, everyone.
All right, everybody, have a great week. Take care.
Bye.